Elmer Watahomigie. The Grand Canyon, one of the most beautiful places on Earth, and one of the deadliest. Since John Wesley Powell and his crew first explored the Colorado River in 1869, over 900 people have died here from non-natural causes. Falls, drownings, heat stroke, plane crashes, murders, you name it, it's happened here. In this video, we're going to look at some of the most unusual, most bizarre, and yes, also most stupid deaths ever recorded at the Grand Canyon. Let's start with a story that's not about stupidity at all. It's about bad luck, harsh conditions, and a final message that will break your heart. In December 1967, a 69-year-old man named Elmer Watahomigie was driving his pickup truck through a remote area near Cataract Canyon in the Havasu region of the Grand Canyon. Elmer was a National Park Service employee, a man who knew this land better than most. But on this particular day, a snowstorm rolled in, and his truck ran out of gas. Stranded in the middle of nowhere, with the temperature dropping and the snow piling up, Elmer made a decision. He wasn't going to sit in his truck and freeze to death. He was going to walk. He set out on foot, hiking through the blizzard, searching for shelter, for help, for anything. He walked 7 miles. Eventually, he found a small rock overhang, a ledge in a tributary canyon, and he crawled underneath it to escape the wind and the snow. It wasn't much, but it was something. And there, huddled under that ledge, knowing he wasn't going to make it, Elmer Watahomigie wrote a note. The note said, "Be good to our grandchild." He died of hypothermia, alone in the cold and the dark. His body wasn't found for 7 years. In 1974, a group of deer hunters stumbled upon his remains, still under that ledge, the note still with him. A man who did everything right, who made all the smart decisions, and still lost. The Grand Canyon doesn't care if you're prepared. It doesn't care if you're experienced. Sometimes, it just takes you anyway. Francis Clem Cochrane. Here's a question for you. Can you actually be scared to death? Like, literally? The answer, it turns out, is yes, and we have proof. His name was Francis Clem Cochrane. In September 1933, Clem, as everyone called him, was a 43-year-old prospector from Los Angeles. He and his companion, a man named Gordon Smith, were on a prospecting and pleasure trip into the remote backcountry of the Grand Canyon. They were descending through Snake Gulch, a rugged side canyon on the north rim, about 12 miles from the nearest cabin, heading toward the Colorado River. It was wild, isolated country, the kind of place where you're completely on your own. Now, here's the thing about Clem. He was terrified of snakes. Absolutely, paralyzingly terrified. And wouldn't you know it, the canyon he was hiking through was called Snake Gulch. You can probably see where this is going. As Clem and Gordon picked their way down the rocky trail, they heard it. That unmistakable sound. The dry, papery rattle of a rattlesnake coiled on the path ahead, warning them to stay back. Clem froze. His heart was probably already pounding. The snake, feeling threatened, did what rattlesnakes do. It struck. It lunged forward, fangs bared, aiming right at Clem. It missed. The snake didn't touch him, not a scratch. But it didn't matter. The sheer terror of that moment, the coiled body, the blur of movement, the fangs coming at his leg, was too much for Clem's heart to handle. He leapt backward, clutched his chest, and collapsed on the trail. He was dead before he hit the ground. An autopsy later confirmed it. No venom in his system, no bite marks. His heart simply gave out from pure, overwhelming fear. He was, quite literally, scared to death by a snake that never even touched him. To this day, no one has ever died from an actual rattlesnake bite in the Grand Canyon. But Clem Cochrane? He died from the idea of one. Edwin Heisel and Frank Costa. This next one is a 2-for-1. 2 friends, 2 deaths. 1 slow, 1 fast. Both completely avoidable. In early September 1974, 2 Arizona State University students, Edwin Heisel Jr., 23, and Frank Costa, 21, decided to go backpacking on the North Rim. But they didn't want to take the boring, established trails that thousands of tourists use every year. No, they wanted an adventure. They wanted to find their own way down to the Colorado River. So they followed a deer trail. A deer trail. Not a hiking trail, a path made by animals through some of the most unforgiving terrain on the planet. They got lost almost immediately. The heat was brutal, the kind of late summer North Rim heat that bakes the rocks and sucks the moisture right out of your body. And they had made another critical mistake. They didn't bring enough food or water. Now they were lost, dehydrated, and desperate. Their solution? Try to rappel down a cliff to reach water. Edwin went first. He rigged up some kind of rope system and started descending a section of the Redwall limestone, a 200-foot vertical drop. Somewhere on the way down, something went wrong. Maybe the rope slipped. Maybe he lost his grip. Either way, Edwin fell. 200 feet, straight down onto the rocks below. He died on impact. Frank was now alone. His friend was dead at the bottom of a cliff. He had no water, no food, and no way down. So he made the only decision he could. He tried to climb back up, back the way they came, back to the rim, to safety. But the canyon wasn't done with him. The heat was relentless. His body was already shutting down from dehydration. Somewhere on that desperate climb back up, Frank Costa collapsed and died of heat stroke. Two friends, two different deaths, both because they thought they knew better than the trail signs. Natalie Yeargan. This next one is hard to tell. On the morning of October 9th, 2007, around 11:30 a.m., a family was visiting the South Rim. They were at Mather Point, the most popular viewpoint in the entire park. Millions of people stand there every year. The father was a pilot stationed at Luke Air Force Base. His daughter, Natalie Yeargan, was 4 years old. They were walking along a path near the rim, in an area without a continuous guardrail. Natalie was right there, with her family, doing what kids do, exploring, looking around, being curious. And then, in a single horrifying instant, she slipped. She went over the edge. The terrain below Mather Point isn't a single clean drop. It's a nightmare of sheer 30 to 50-foot cliffs broken by steep, unstable slopes that lead to more drop-offs. Natalie fell roughly 400 to 500 feet before her body came to rest on a ledge far below. Her father didn't hesitate. He scrambled down the cliffs after her, climbing down terrain that would challenge an experienced rock climber, desperate to reach his little girl. He found her on a ledge and immediately started CPR. A park ranger rappelled down to help. A second ranger was lowered by helicopter. They tried everything, but it was too late. Natalie was pronounced dead at the scene. During his frantic descent, her father injured his ankle. After Natalie's body was recovered, he had to be extracted from the cliff by a helicopter short-haul operation. A park spokeswoman called it a tragic reminder that extreme care needs to be taken at the canyon rim, especially with children. Natalie Yeargan is believed to be the youngest person ever to die in a fall from the Grand Canyon's rim. She was 4 years old. Greg Austin Gingrich. We all know a dad like this. The one who thinks he's the funniest guy in the room, whose entire personality is built on a foundation of bad puns and embarrassing jokes. Well, in 1992, one of those dads, a 38-year-old named Greg Austin Gingrich, took his family on a trip to the Grand Canyon. And he decided it was the perfect venue for his masterpiece, his magnum opus of dad jokes. Standing with his teenage daughter at a scenic overlook on the South Rim, Greg saw a low stone guard wall separating tourists from a sheer drop. And he had an idea. A brilliant, hilarious idea. He was going to pretend to fall. He explained the plan to his daughter. He would jump onto the wall, flail his arms around like a cartoon character losing his balance, and then leap to a safe ledge just on the other side, out of sight. The perfect prank. His daughter, thoroughly unimpressed and used to his antics, reportedly just rolled her eyes and started to walk away. She'd seen this act 100 times before. So Greg put his plan into action. He hopped onto the wall, did a little theatrical wobble, windmilling his arms for dramatic effect, and then he fell. For real. He had completely misjudged the distance and the slope of the ledge he was aiming for. The safe landing spot he'd eyeballed from above was actually a steep, slippery slope. Instead of landing safely, he tumbled backward into the abyss, plunging 400 feet to his death. His daughter, still walking away, didn't even realize what had happened until he failed to reappear. She thought he was just hiding, waiting to jump out and scare her. Rangers found his body after a search. It's a story that has become a legend at the Grand Canyon, a cautionary tale passed around by park rangers. The ultimate dad joke, taken to its most logical and most fatal conclusion. Justin Guthrie. There are rules at the Grand Canyon. Lots of them. They're there for a reason. They're written on signs, they're printed on maps, they're repeated by every park ranger. And then there are people like Justin Charles Guthrie, a 43-year-old from Missouri who looked at the Grand Canyon and didn't see a majestic natural wonder, but a challenge, a dare. On August 1st, 2024, around 7 a.m., Justin and a friend decided to do something that is very, very illegal. Base jump off the South Rim. They hiked out to a spot near Yavapai Point in the early morning hours, a time when they thought they could avoid detection. Justin, an experienced jumper, was going first. He leaped from the edge, a tiny figure against the vast, empty space. And for a moment, it seemed to work. His parachute opened. But the Grand Canyon isn't just a big hole in the ground. It's a chaotic, unpredictable vortex of wind. Outdoor experts call it one of the most dangerous places on Earth for base jumping. The air swirls and churns in ways that can't be seen from the rim. Thermals rise unpredictably from the sun-baked rock. Rotors, invisible, violent columns of turbulent air, form near the cliff faces. 1 second, you're flying. The next, the canyon decides to swat you out of the sky like a fly. That's what happened to Justin. A sudden gust of wind caught his parachute, slamming him into the cliff face. His companion, watching from the rim, could only look on in horror as Justin's body tumbled down the rock. When rescue crews finally reached him, they found his body on a rocky talus slope 500 feet below the rim, his parachute tangled around him. His friend now faces potential criminal charges for the illegal stunt. Justin wasn't the first person to illegally jump in the canyon, and he won't be the last. But the canyon doesn't care about your experience, your equipment, or your ego. It makes its own rules.